Hi, welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm Tina Howard. I have a fun guest with me here today. I have Carter Shell with me. Hey, Carter.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, this is going to be fun. People don't know this. You may not even know this, but let's see. My grandfather and your great-grandfather were brothers.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The great-grandma, okay. And so that makes us cousins somehow.
Exactly.
So I am proud to be related to you, my friend.
And you as well. Thank you.
Okay, Carter is an interesting person for a number of reasons, and we're going to get to most of those in an hour, I hope. But I just appreciate you making time. I know you are a super busy person.
No.
You have a lot going on in your life, and I thank you for making time for us.
No, there's nothing. Thank you.
So we're going to start off, I'm going to start off kind of in the present, and then back up.
Okay.
So in the present, okay, shout out to your peeps. Mom and Dad are?
Charlie and Kelly Shell.
Charlie Shell and Kelly Shell. And grandparents?
Yep, Janet and Frank.
Janet and Frank
Both
Shell.
my grandfathers are named Frank.
And then Nancy and Frank. And their last name is?
Taylor.
Taylor. Nancy and Frank
Kelly's
Taylor.
maiden name.
Yeah, that's Kelly's mom and dad. So that's good. You got, everybody's here local, which is nice. You graduated from Hart County High School last year.
2K18.
2K18.
Best class out of the past. Wow.
That's right. And since high school, I'm going to just kind of tell everybody what you've been up to, and then we can delve back into how you got into it. One thing is I see you at the Y a lot, where you work out with
Eric Snow.
Eric Snow, a trainer there at the Y, and you might not assume this looking at Carter, but Carter...
You're saying I'm a very small guy.
No, you're not a small guy, but
Frail.
most of the time when you think of what I'm about to say, you think of really huge, beefy people. Carter holds the All-American record in your class for the deadlift. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And the deadlift, for anybody that doesn't know, is you are standing and you bend over to pick up a barbell that's loaded up with weights, and then you stand up with that.
Yeah, it's just the extension movement, basically. You just pick it up.
Sounds like it's nothing, but
Take it on the
I've
ground,
seen
pick it up. Yeah.
Right, but it does require an extremely strong back.
Yeah, and legs, hips. There's a lot of... It's very... You can shorten it down. It's very simple if you're just trying to tell people how to do it, but there's a lot of different muscle leverages and groups that you have to understand to most efficiently do that.
So it's not as simple as my back is strong, I can lift it. There's a lot of leverage points that go into that. And if I could have you throw your leg up on the table, we're going to look at... No, I'm just kidding. But you're not a gigantic, beefy person.
No, I weigh 140 right now.
140. Yeah, me too. But what I was going to say is, when you lift, how much do you lift?
So now my deadlift is 550, my squat is 450, and my bench still hasn't gone over 270.
550 pounds deadlifting, 450 pounds squatting.
Yes.
And the bench press is 250.
270.
270.
Bench is
I just
my
have
weakest.
to let that sink in for a second.
My bench is weak compared to my weight
Weak?
class.
270 is not weak, my friend.
Most of the dudes I compete with are like, I'm 5'8", something like that. Most of the guys I compete with are like 5'4". And
oh, really?
their arms are like this long, and they kind of just...
Short arms have an advantage, I guess, over long arms.
There's actually a guy I competed with in Pan Americans that he was in the weight class above me when I was in 59. 59 kilos is 129.9 pounds about. He was in 66, which is 144, and he has Down syndrome. And he held the bench record in his weight class at Worlds. So he had the highest bench of his age and weight class ever. His name's Steven Gassert.
Steven Gassert.
He's a cool kid. He's super excited about everything. And he is stout.
I bet.
At 144, he benched 335.
Wow. That's
He's
strong.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Gosh. And so being the record holder, the All-American record holder, you are on the U.S. national powerlifting team.
Yeah, so I was invited to compete with the team. I was an alternate to go to Worlds that was in Minsk, Belarus. That's where that competition was. But I ended up competing in Pan Americans before that as the 59 kilo spot. And I placed gold in that competition and ended up as an alternate for Worlds and didn't end up going just because they have 5 spots out of the national team that go to sub-junior Worlds, and then I was the 6th, so if anybody got hurt I was supposed to go. But
Okay.
I was not going to make weight, so I was glad that I was not called to go. I'd
that
had to
mean
do a
you ate
really
too much or
unhealthy
too
weight
little?
cut. For me,
Didn't make weight.
weight cuts it's an art being able to cut weight. So the way I cut weight, I can sit in a sauna for 8 hours and I'll lose 3 to 4 pounds at the most. And that's like that's at the heaviest I've ever been. I could do that. I weighed 145. I could get down to 141
So
in
you
a
have
sauna.
to get down to a certain weight class in order. Explain this to me because I'm kind of a neophyte when it comes to these weight things. If you weigh less, but you lift more, that's a good thing.
Yes. So
Okay, so you're not trying to bulk up. You're trying to get down. So, and you have a number of ways, and that's how you say you cut the weight is you.
yeah, you have to
losing weight.
manage. You lose weight to try to make it into your weight class because most people that especially fighters and weightlifters and all that,
Yeah.
they'll walk around at like some of the guys I compete with. They would walk around at 150 and they would cut to 130.
Oh my gosh.
So I have an extremely low body fat percentage and would weigh in, like my walking around weight at the time of that competition was about 139.
Okay.
And I cut all the way down to 126
Wow.
before that
But
competition.
how much time period are we talking about?
I cut that in with a month of dieting, which I just cut my calories completely, and then did a water load, which is not healthy and I would not recommend it. But
doesn't
if you
sound
have to make weight, then it's the way to do it.
So it's all these strategies that the athletes know how to employ in order to cut the weight.
So like wrestling, high school wrestling, you're not allowed to, a coach isn't allowed to endorse any form of weight cutting
Right. I understand.
other than like running around with a hoodie on like you're in a movie
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that. But I would,
Because it can be kind of dangerous.
you can go to the hospital
You have to
from
be careful.
dehydration.
Yeah, and the electrolyte balance probably gets out of whack and things like that.
Yeah. So I would drink like a gallon of water a day, a gallon of water a day, a gallon of water a day, then 2 gallons a day, 2 gallons a day, 2 gallons a day, 3 gallons a day, 3 gallons a day, and then you don't drink any water at all for 48 hours. And your body continues to do all its normal processes,
Yeah.
like you're intaking 3 gallons of water a
Oh,
day.
because it's used to the 3 gallons.
So it's like you're just taking a sponge and filling it up, and then you squeeze it out and don't put anything back in it at all. So
But then right after the competition, the first thing you drink, isn't that going right back into? So it's not effective
so-
for weight loss. Asking for a friend.
No. It's like you would be able to hold on to that for 2 to 3 days at most.
Okay, at the most. And then
And you'd
see
be
that-
unhealthy for those 2 to 3 days.
Yeah. Okay,
But-
so don't try this at home. Is what,
And you don't have time to put weight back on either because unlike fights, you don't get 24 hours from weigh-in to fight. You get 2 hours from weigh-in to you're on the platform doing your first lift then.
oh, wow.
So it gets more into you can't do as many unhealthy things because it's
Yeah.
going to really, really hurt your performance
Yes,
by the time you have to
exactly.
compete 2 hours later.
Yeah. Is that why they do it? So that to discourage?
Yeah, it's
maybe?
kind of, they do that also to
makes sense.
discourage, but they also do it to prevent people from like, I weigh 180 and I'm really good at weight cutting. I'm going to go down to 140 and then bounce all the way back to 170 by the time I have to compete tomorrow.
By the time you compete.
So that just throws people off like
yeah,
crazy.
that
You have
makes
some
sense.
dude that's
Try to
giant.
keep them honest about, coming in and competing at their level.
Basically,
yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. Totally makes sense. Okay, so to say that you are a disciplined person may be an understatement.
When it comes to certain things, yes, I eat very unhealthily.
You do?
Yeah,
Like you
I
mean
eat
Cheetos
horrible.
or?
Like I don't eat any vegetables at all. I don't drink enough water. This past week, I've drank the most water I've ever drank, like, in a month-long period of my life, other than doing water cuts. Like, voluntarily.
Just because you felt like you needed it or something.
Yeah.
So a typical day's meal for you when you're not competing, do you have to keep, I imagine the weightlifting burns a lot of calories, so you have to keep a pretty good food intake going.
My metabolism's very quick, so I have to eat a lot. But now, like, if I don't eat, like, the problem I've been running into lately is I would go from eating 5 to 6 meals a day, and in the past couple months, I've kind of gone down to like 3 to 4 just because how I've been a lot busier, so my time schedule's kind of thrown off.
Yeah.
But if I'll eat dinner at 6, and by 9 o'clock, I'll like have cramps because I'm just so hungry.
Yeah.
So I like have to eat something.
So you'll have a second dinner. My kids had a second dinner for the longest time. I think one of them still does. So they'll eat at 6 or 7, and then they'll have another dinner before they go to bed. So pretty funny. So are you meat heavy protein?
Yes.
Do you supplement the protein?
I'll drink a protein shake after I work out, but I don't take any. Are you one of those
crazy people that dips things out of powdery things and mixes?
I mean, I have like a protein powder isolate that I put in milk and shake up and drink.
But you're not a fanatic about
I don't take like BCAAs and all this crazy stuff that. I mean, it helps, but it's only going to help so much. You're in
a family that is kind of meat centric. You do a lot of hunting and that kind of thing. So you probably do get your protein the natural way through through your diet. Yeah, that's good. What's your favorite food?
I like Asian food a whole lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, Korean food, Japanese food. I don't like a lot of sauces, like American sauces.
Okay.
Like I'll eat barbecue sauce, but I don't like
mayonnaise
ranch.
Heavy
I don't like mayonnaise. I don't like ketchup.
We like our mayo in the States.
Yeah, it's weird. I just can't do it.
But the Asian food, you probably ate out quite a bit and discovered a taste.
I eat out a lot. I should probably eat at home more. Gets towards the health thing a lot.
Yes, as should we all. But so Asian food's a favorite. Any particular thing? Egg rolls or spring rolls or any particular Asian food?
Stir fry noodle bowls from like a normal fast food place would be like stir fry noodle bowls or I don't know, anything. Traditional Korean food's really good.
Yeah?
Like I like spicy food, but their spice is it's different.
Yeah. Korean barbecue is a big thing right now.
Yeah, it's getting really popular.
Yeah,
and then
I see that a lot.
Around Atlanta, there's a large Korean communities that have really, really good restaurants.
That's good. Well, that's fun to go explore restaurants.
Oh yeah, totally.
Fun stuff. So when did you get interested in weightlifting? Just to kind of finish out the topic. You were a little kid, and did you see people that did bodybuilding, or how did that come about?
I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
Halfway through that school year, halfway through that school year, I started going to Eric just as I wanted to exercise and get stronger, not really for any purpose, but I did that for maybe 6 to 8 months, and then he powerlifted for a while, so he's the one that talked me into kind of trying it. So
he saw some talent and said, hey, you...
I don't know what the reason was. Maybe he just wanted somebody to do it with because nobody else does it around here. But it was...
That's funny.
He's the one that got me into it and kind of just helped me know most everything I know about it up until this point. So
when you were that 14-year-old freshman in high school, did you ever look forward 5 years and go, I'm going to hold an American record?
No, I always figured that if I tried very hard that I would be strong, but I didn't know powerlifting existed at that point. So it was kind of a thing that I stumbled upon in that way. But I mean, it's a cool community and all that. We pick on other community. All weightlifting communities pick on each other. Olympic weightlifters are like the elitists that pick on everybody because they're not as focused on technique and specific things. And powerlifters are like the dumb people that just want to be strong and not have efficiency of movement and other things. And then CrossFit they pick on in a whole nother level that don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings, but so I'll just leave it at that point. But there's always something that they pick on each other for and all that.
Sounds like a healthy kind of a competitive environment, though.
Yeah,
kind of a family of people that.
Most of it is kind of constructive criticism to where you're like, I think there's like with CrossFit and Olympic lifting, they clash because Olympic lifting is an extremely traditional, technical sport that people in Western Europe and all these countries in Asia are like really big into, and very, very specific with technique and how many, like their formatting of their sets and reps and their workout plans, their stretching techniques. Like Olympic weightlifters will stretch 70% of the time and do lifts, or stretch and do mobility work 70% of the time, and do actual like strength training that 40 or 30% of the time.
Oh, really? Are we opposite in the West?
Well, we are more so like when it comes to CrossFit, it's more cardiovascular strength and repetitions. And most Olympic lifters don't like that because the entire point of Olympic lifting itself is the focus of technique and patience and understanding the movement itself instead of trying to shoot through it, and there are positives to both. The Olympic lifters are obviously going to be better in the Olympic movements just because they spend more time on technique, but then you have the cardiovascular ability of people that do things like CrossFit and all these other things because they're running and jumping and doing all these different things. It really stimulates your heart and circulatory system to where you're really improving yourself endurance-wise that other sports don't get. And like powerlifting, cardio for us is like 5 reps or more. Like then you're like panting, like, oh, this is a lot. So we get picked on for that because we're the lazy ones.
That's funny.
But we like you're strapping equipment to yourself like a belt, neoprene knee sleeves. They give you a little bit of kind of a cushion when you go really deep in a squat.
Yeah. And
they also are very tight on the top and bottom, above and below your knee. They kind of keep blood flow and all that into your joints and protect them.
That's interesting.
But you're trying to strap stuff on yourself while you're destroying your body to not let you destroy your body as much. But
it makes sense. Do you have then friends that are all over the place from powerlifting?
I've got some guys that I know in Texas, and some of them, I forget what these one, Ohio State College, there's some dudes that I know. There's a dude I know from Georgia that I competed with there.
You keep up with them? Y'all buddies?
Some, kinda. I mean, we'll talk through each other through social media and stuff like that, and kind of check up on each other. We can see what we're doing because they're posting and we're posting and talking about stuff. But
will you do another competition anytime soon?
When I have time, like kind of now that I'm back, I'm thinking about it. But most of the time, I spend 4 months in Argentina every year. So those, I mean, that little 8 months that I have when I get back, I kind of really have to prioritize the building of the businesses that I'm participating in Argentina and Katichi, and then try to fit that in during that schedule. It takes planning.
Yeah.
You just have to be very specific in organization.
It's a good transition away from the powerlifting because that is only one of the things that you're involved with. Let's talk Katichi for a second. Your family bought Katichi 2 years ago?
Yes.
And you're heavily involved.
Yes,
and
totally.
Your sister Savannah is as well.
Now that she's graduated, she's coming back to work full time. So.
And she's got an interesting, I believe, forestry degree.
Fisheries and wildlife, and she's super into it.
Which is incredible because it is a part of making a golf course a renowned, recognizable place to have that wildlife and to be able to facilitate that. And so her knowledge on that end is going to be very helpful.
Yeah.
And your input at Katichi, where are you focused at Katichi?
So I'm focused in operational tasks and kind of systematic implementation of some processes there that I basically am under. So the director of operations, Greg Rushing, is absolutely fantastic and knows everything there is to know about how to run and operate a golf course. But there's only one of him to go around. So I am learning from him and being able to do some of the smaller tasks that kind of bog down his time and free him up to really do what he's
That's great. That's
talented
great for him, and it's
promote
great
the
for
place.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're basically seeing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. And so operationally, you're over the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurant's a different entity, right?
Yeah, so everything, there's actually 8 different departments technically
What?
under Katichi. And I mean, you say like the golf course is one itself, but then like golf course maintenance is split up.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
because they're separate, they're run separate, they have
Okay.
different revenue streams.
Okay.
And for those, that's a lot of stuff in the, like the bar and the restaurant are split up.
Yeah, they're two different
Because
things, right? Part of
the
the
bar,
same thing, but
yeah.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. So everything, it's split up more than it seems like it is. Just
Yeah, because from
looking
the
at
outside
operation.
looking in, you're thinking events, golf, and restaurant. But they're really 8 departments
Yeah.
at Katichi. That is fascinating. Did you ever, because I know you grew up going to Katichi, did you ever in your wildest dreams think, I'm going to be in charge of the operations over this golf course?
Never. So a long time ago, when me and my dad would play there, and we'd play on a weekday or something in the evening, we'd go out and there would be no one on the golf course. So we'd be out playing and we'd be like, we love playing at this time because it's like you own the place. So that's the first joke we made when we played golf after we got the place.
That's funny.
But it was I mean it's an incredible place, and we're glad that we could step in and kind of keep it in the community.
Yeah, we are too. Your community is also glad. So Katichi is something that you're working on the operations side. Tell us about the Argentina project. You are a guide, a hunting guide, fishing guide?
Yeah, so that's part of what I do. The guiding is kind of the just I would say symptom of the coordination and hosting and selling of these trips.
So you're even more than a guide. You're up in the treetops organizing entire trips.
So when I was 15, I started doing this. I would leave school. It was only for the stag season. Now I leave longer for fishing as well. But so from the start, I associate. So the property that I sell hunts on, it belongs to Ted Turner.
Okay.
And it's kind of a they'd been doing hunts for a period there just because it is his private residence, and you have to have some commercial there has to be something commercial going on there for him to be able to justify owning it.
Okay.
So that's why they would have those very, very limited amount of hunts that they would do every year.
And when you say Ted Turner, I'm thinking he must own millions of acres.
He was the largest landowner in the U.S. and now is either this. I believe he's still the second.
Okay.
So he's a very devout conservationist. Owns a lot of property for the sake of conservation and wildlife, promoting habitats and things like that.
So he doesn't just own in the States and Argentina. He probably owns throughout the world, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his holdings are internationally other than Argentina, but I know he owns a substantial amount in the U.S. I think there was kind of a folktale that his goal at one point was to be able to ride a horse from Canada to Mexico without leaving his own property.
I have heard that.
So I don't know if that was true or not, but it was pretty cool. But
that's awesome. So his ranch in Argentina is where you manage and promote
these hunts.
So when you were 15, is that the first time that you went, or the first time that you
first time I went was right before then. So I had gone to my father had been on the property previously and kind of hit it off with the property manager there, and ended up to where I was going for 6.5 weeks before the season, just to kind of hang out and know the place and work there and get to know the property, kind of help run cattle different places and fix fences and watch for poachers and all kinds of stuff like that. But
watch for poachers, gosh, I never even thought about that kind of thing. But yeah. Wow. And so you started doing that, and then it wasn't long before you were leading some of the hunts?
Yeah, so the person that had been operating the hunting side got a job offer somewhere else and had left, and there was nobody there to pick up that space, I guess. And I had gone there the year before and ended up just kind of working my way into helping coordinate and helping getting some people to come down and using different contacts that I had through different people just to kind of push some people down there for them, help coordinate them getting in and out of the country.
So you're inviting people, you're reaching out to people and saying, here's an opportunity for you to come and hunt here. So
helping
that's a little bit of marketing, a little bit of managing the trips. And that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, what 15-year-old thinks to do that? That's awesome.
Well, it was, thankfully, my dad, he was able to teach me a lot and just how that stuff works just with his business acumen.
Oh, sure.
But, from that, I learned a lot, and then at this point, so I have 3 weeks that I coordinate with Turner Enterprises, and those are the 3 weeks that I have to market for clients. So
you're responsible for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Those 3 weeks, and soup to nuts. You have to go from pulling the people in, managing them and their schedules while they're there, I guess.
Yep.
That's huge. That takes a lot of work for that 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Selling it is the biggest thing because you have to really, in the next 2 months, if they're not sold, that's kind of like a little bit like panic mode. Like you got to get out and you got to get it done just because you want it done in advance because you have to have ample time for coordination and changing anything that's going on, getting these people set up for what they're doing. Because for these 3 weeks, I have to market those to the clients, get these trips sold, coordinate what's going on, who's going to be where, they're traveling in and out of the country, make sure they know exactly what to pack from all the way down to very small details, like just certain things that they're not going to have the convenience of having down there that they would need to bring. So their packing list, what plane tickets they need to have, their transfers to and from airports, their pretty much anything that's going to have to do with them getting in and out of the country, which is a very long flight, and you have to have, there's 2 flights just to get to the location and then another hour-and-a-half drive to the property itself.
Do you have vehicles that pick people up? Are they buses or Jeeps or?
It's normally a van that picks them up between airports, and that's just transfer companies that I work with in Buenos Aires.
And you're coordinating because you have to know if person A comes into the airport on this day at this time and person B at this time, and so you're coordinating that trip, an hour and a half to the destination.
Yep. Which you have to be very clear on and have multiple redundancies because it is in Spanish. So I have to then communicate back and forth and make sure I'm saying what I mean to say.
It just got a lot
Make sure
harder.
what's going on. And the language barrier, even for people that speak English, words that mean something here don't necessarily mean the same thing there. So you have to be very clear.
And our grammar and phrasing is so different.
Yeah.
So that brings up an interesting point. Did you have to learn to speak Spanish, or had you already learned to speak Spanish?
I kind of started learning when I went down there the first time.
Okay.
So I was in Spanish all through high school. Shout out to Miss Gordy.
Go, Miss Gordy.
She's an incredible Spanish teacher and really not only cared about what we learned, but outside of school, how we carried that on and to actually learn it instead of just, I know some vocabulary, but I can't understand when somebody's talking to me, which you got to be able to listen and speak if you're going to actually speak the language.
In real time,
which
is pressure because it's just coming at you fast. So you had, I would say, a more... you were more interested in really learning Spanish because you had this...
Kind of had to,
Yeah. You had this business that you had to use it for, so you were much more invested in learning it than somebody that just might want to check off that box.
Yeah, exactly.
Say, I took my 4 years of Spanish or whatever it was. So that's good. So you probably did study pretty hard for that.
Yeah, I would. It's more about...
But it's nothing compared to being conversational, right?
Yeah, it's... I mean, you can study... and you can learn your vocabulary. The biggest thing, people often, they say, well, I don't want to try to speak Spanish if I don't have a developed vocabulary. That's the biggest thing. You can't develop your vocabulary in the correct way unless you know what you're lacking. So if you have a teacher that can help you with that, that's great. But if you're out of school and you don't have a teacher, you don't know kind of what direction you need to develop that in until you start speaking to people and trying to actually understand things that you hear coming in. Because if you don't know how somebody's like, you can learn every name of every color, everything in nature, everything that you're going to find on a beach, and you can learn how to say library, and you can learn all that stuff. But then somebody starts talking to you about business, and you're like, I don't know any of what they're saying. Or somebody's talking to me about driving a car. I never learned any of that vocabulary. So you really start learning fast what you lack.
Yeah.
And then you got to like catch up and focus on those areas so you know what to say.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself after 4 months in Argentina thinking in Spanish?
No, I wish I did. Once you get to that point, that's like a whole nother level. I'm like getting, because if you can subconsciously think in a language, that's normally a sign that you're becoming fluent in it. Like if you can dream in that language and think in it without throwing in English words, that kind of is a sign that you're getting to that fluency in the language.
I have a feeling you'll get there.
I hope so. That would.
Do you have clients that come to Argentina that are from other countries? Would you have, for example, people that speak other languages other than English and Spanish?
Not really. We've had some in the fishing lodge. We've had some Brazilian clients that other agents have brought in. And at La Primavera, which is the name of the stag property, it's we've only had really Americans. There's an English gentleman that'll be coming down this next year. And so, I mean, everybody. It's a little different kind of English, but... Yeah.
When you get the group together, do you just sit back and do your ears just get big and you listen to everything that's... Like, what do they talk about?
Most of the guys are very business oriented. They're obviously to a point to where they're comfortable enough to go on a trip like this, and you learn a lot about what their business is, what they do, who they are, how to kind of manage people as well, manage scenarios, what's going on, mitigate risks in certain areas by understanding this person doesn't like when people talk about this. Let's steer conversation away from that. Which isn't always very easy, but it's a skill that can be used every day.
Yeah.
But it's you learn a lot about all kinds of different stuff. What people do, what they like. A lot of people that just are knowledgeable on certain things. If you get them talking about it, you learn a lot about what they're interested in.
You're just about getting a psychology, sociology degree. Just
kind of, yeah.
You know, and managing the personalities. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, because as you said, the people who come there have had a certain measure of success to be able to afford to take that time and come to hunt. So, you're dealing with some big guns. Does anybody ever show up and go, "Oh my gosh, I was expecting somebody older"?
That's most people. If they don't already know me, they because I show up in the airport in Bariloche to pick them up. Uh-huh. And I'm like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, they start asking me, like, do you have any kids?
Like, are you the van driver?
They'll see me in the back. Okay, so like, do you have any kids? Like, where, blah blah blah. Where do you live? I'm like, I graduated high school last year. I do not have kids yet.
And I live at home.
Yeah, I live at home currently. So
it's so funny. So I bet they're like, they take a minute and go, huh?
Yeah, normally it's kind of funny because then I get to talk to them and certain things that I'm knowledgeable on to a degree I get to talk to them about, and they're like, huh, this is odd. Mm-hmm.
Do you get underestimated ever?
I think that's one benefit of being younger and in certain fields of business is, one, it's kind of a novelty for some people where they're like, oh, this is great, let me help a young guy out, which is nice, but then you also get underestimated a lot, which kind of helps in your ability to impress people in certain scenarios. So that's nice also.
That's great.
So I gotta do as much as I can now until people are unimpressed by me.
And you picked up the fishing too, so the fishing is part of what you're doing too. Mm-hmm. And do you think you will ever, well, I guess you won't because you've got Katichi here, but will you grow longer and longer in
No, ma'am. I think 4 months is the longest period of time that I'm comfortable being down there. And I have to come back in between that also because you're only allowed on a tourist visa. You're only allowed to be in country for 90 days. Ah. So you can't like...
So you have to break that up by coming back.
You can't shoot back and forth. And well, you can shoot back and forth, but you can't like I'm gonna stay 91 days, and
Yeah.
they're gonna deport me as soon as I get to the airport.
You got to follow the rules, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you seen a lot of the world?
I've been to, when I was younger, I went on a trip with People to People. As a student ambassador organization. Miss Page was my tag teacher in elementary school, and she helped sponsor me and two of my buddies for that organization, and it was a really good opportunity. I'm thankful for her to that.
Yeah.
But we got to go to 8 different countries in Europe in a 24 day period.
Wow.
So we got to see a lot of super cool stuff. I think it was England, France, Switzerland, Belgium, the Netherlands, Liechtenstein, Austria. I can't remember all of them. I start forgetting which ones I've added and not added.
And you were in each one probably for a day or 2 or 3 and then on to the next?
Exactly. About 3 days, 2 days
experience.
maybe. We spent longer in Germany. I was in Steinbach, and I went to, I had a homestay there, so we had an extended period there, so some days we'd spend 1 day somewhere.
What was that like?
So I went to their schools, and I went to school with a kid, and it was incredible.
I bet.
It was a brand new school. It was 4-story industrial concrete structure that really had super nice facilities in it, like a state-of-the-art gym with all kinds of like rock climbing walls and
nice
basketball courts. They played basketball. They forced, I wouldn't say forced, they kind of directed the kids to really experience sports from all kinds of other nations to see if they liked different stuff. So they would like try to play their version of American football. We had to help them with that. And they helped us learn about rugby and stuff like that. So
that's cool.
It was super cool. Food was incredible.
Was it?
Classes were, I think the classes were 45 minutes to an hour. They were an hour long. You had a 20-minute break in between classes. And during lunch, we had an hour and 15 minutes for lunch, I think.
Oh my gosh, how different is that than here?
It was just a really cool experience being in school there.
Was the house different? Was there anything in the house that made you think, wow, this is different from us?
The only thing at all that was very different, so, I mean, you got all the normal furniture, fixtures, and everything for housing that was pretty normal for the time. But they had a giant projector screen that like took up the whole wall of the living room that they pulled down, because I was there during the World Cup when they played Brazil.
Yeah.
So, and I've never seen a group of people that excited. Like, and I'm a pretty big fan of football. Like, I watch football. I'm into it. Very emotional. They're like another level of, there's like little kids running around eating pretzels and like cured sausages, and there's a giant wooden keg with beer in it that they're just tapping off of and watching the game and all that kind of stuff,
like
with horns in the house screaming. It was crazy. And they were, 7-1. They were very excited.
Oh, I bet. The house was rocking then.
Yeah, it was a big game. But they were super excited about that. They canceled school for like 5 days. They let them off for a week because they were in the World Cup.
That's insane.
Which they might do for Georgia here if they would ever get to a national championship again. But
that's right. Well, speaking of Georgia, you're you may be a Georgia fan, but you're okay. So you're a fan of
Alabama. I was born in Fort Rucker while my dad was in the Army, and so I'm ever since 2010, 2011. Everybody was talking about football. This is when I was getting into football. I was born in '99, so I was turning 11 around that time. And I was like, I'm kind of getting into watching football. I want to pick a team that I like and all that. And everybody's like, you should be a Georgia fan. And I'm like, well, why are you a Georgia fan? They're like, because I was born here, and that is my town, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay.
State school,
well, I wasn't born here.
Well, you were Alabama.
And I was like, well, I was born in Alabama. I guess and 2010 was an off year for us, actually. So we made it to a bowl game with Michigan State, I believe, that year. And beat them pretty badly. And after that game, I was like, okay, I'm going to be an Alabama fan.
That is cool.
And then we had a little dip, and then it started getting real good.
But that's okay, because you're not a fair weather fan. You're a true fan.
Yeah. I was even a fan in tried to defend my guys when we lost to Clemson pretty badly recently, but that's just how it goes. We beat them one year and lose one year, and then beat them the next year, and then lose the next year. So we'll make it to the national championship the 6th year in a row this year, and beat them this time, and then they can beat us the next year. We make it to the national championship. So,
so it could very well be.
Good, yeah, it could be.
So one would think, because of your allegiance to Alabama, and your level of intelligence, that you might head straight out of high school into college at, say, Alabama. But you have so much going on that people twice your age would love to have going on. So what was the thought process there? Do you want to put college off, or are you getting your college in the real world?
It's kind of both. I'm putting my college off when I'd like to have a degree by the time in something I'm interested in by the time I'm 26. Mm-hmm. So this period in time, I'm developing my business, helping with Katichi develop it, promote it in different areas, learn a lot from that. And I mean, I'm in the process of, I was purchasing a house here and thinking about building a house another place. So I'm learning a lot about real estate through actually doing that.
Yeah.
Learning about loans and banks, and learning about Katichi, and we're doing developments there and learning how things like that work. And it's just a lot of stuff at one time that I couldn't necessarily get somewhere else learning.
Well, yeah, you're kind of drinking from a fire hose here. There's a lot coming at you that you're absorbing. Mm-hmm. It would be kind of hard to do that and be a full-time student someplace.
Yes.
So, but God, what a wonderful set of opportunities you have.
Yeah, it's great.
So, it's good.
Fantastic.
Take us back now that we kind of know, where you are in the present. Take us back. Who were you as a kid? Were you the cut up? You're the youngest of two. So usually the youngest, and I'm the youngest as well, usually the youngest is kind of the clown, what were you like?
So I could not stop talking or moving when I was in Miss Grant, who retires this year from Hartwell Elementary, who's an incredible teacher, and loved her to death. When I was a kid, I had her as my kindergarten teacher, and
shout out to Miss Grant.
I was on Yellow about every day for talking.
That would be the yellow card that gets turned when somebody, that's like step one of being in trouble.
Yeah, red was the second step. You didn't want to be on red, and you definitely didn't want to be on blue. Blue was like the real bad one. But I was on yellow pretty much every day.
And that was just for talking mostly?
Yeah.
Well, if you're social, it's kind of hard not to talk.
Well, she messed up one day and told me, was like explaining the colors to somebody. I was like, so yellow is kind of your warning. And I was like, told my mom from then on, I was like, it was just a warning. I didn't get in trouble. So everything was fine.
That's so funny.
But
so from kindergarten on, you were chatty.
I was a talker.
Yeah.
Yeah, in middle school, I had Miss Boy, and she was my English teacher at the time. And I got to, like, if I was moving too much, she, instead of like going, don't do that, she would like say, Carter, go run around outside for 2 minutes, do whatever you want to do, and then come back inside and pay attention.
Did you have a hard time sitting still in class?
I would, and I'd start talking to one of my friends, or I'd be like tapping stuff and moving around. And she, I think, understood that more than, or was patient enough to try to understand it and let me go like, hey, go get that out of you, and then come back in and make sure you focus and do all that.
Yeah.
So
smart. Very smart.
Oh yeah, and got out of middle school and high school. My sister cares about grades a lot. Really has always cared about grades, and I did not get that, and I wish I did, but I couldn't find it in me to be like, oh no, I got a B. I'd freak out. But
were there any subjects in school that you hated?
I didn't really hate any subject other than certain maths. I'm not a super big, like, you get into like algebra and stuff like that. Like, it's fun to a degree, and then you start getting into things like, oh, let's learn about imaginary numbers and whatever. And I'm like, a lot of people say I'm never going to use this in my life, but like, I'm to another I'm doing a lot of stuff, learning a lot of stuff, and I've still, since I've graduated, I've never used that. Never.
And I'm 55 and I've never used it. When I'm like that too, when the numbers started becoming letters, like in, I guess it was algebra or geometry or something, I just lost interest. But I love numbers. I love finance and money and numbers, and as long as the numbers are real numbers and not letters and fake numbers.
But I appreciate them wanting us to learn higher level math and expanding our knowledge and all that kind of stuff. But it gets to the point of shifting towards people's direction and focus in certain fields.
Yeah, it's very specialized.
When is the time to do that?
Yeah.
And that, it's a tough subject, but you got to kind of, like, if I would have learned, or if my classes would have learned how to use Excel for business, I feel like a higher percentage of people in that class could use that than they could how to convert the square root of -i to whatever.
Agreed.
But and they've started doing that. Trey Jones is a teacher at the high school who really cares a lot about kids learning stuff that's going to be important to them in their lives. And he teaches a kind of like an intro to finance and stuff like that. I forget what the name of the class is, but he teaches about finance and management of money and all that kind of stuff in one class that they just started doing last year, I think.
That's good. That class is necessary, I think.
I had him as a geometry teacher, which I like geometry because I do a lot of, with my dad, I do a lot of carpentry and stuff like that. You can really use geometry when you build things. And it helps a lot. And trigonometry for people that do construction and things like that, I mean, that helps a lot. But also somebody that's really wants to go into culinary arts doesn't necessarily need to know about that, I guess.
True.
But
excellent point. And so I've asked you about the classes you did not like. Are there any that you really did that you just looked forward to and it was just...
Mr. Calloway's macroeconomics class. I really like him as a teacher, and also the curriculum that he taught. I feel like there's a lot of things that we got to learn in that class that as long as you paid attention to it, there's a lot of knowledge that you could gain from it, and just kind of understanding how things work in the overall economy to help people make more conscious political decisions also.
Yeah, interesting. Have you always been interested in politics?
I've been interested in economic and political decisions. I'd say being interested in politics is kind of like a broad thing where I'm not interested, I guess, in the way that people win people over to vote for them or win people over to do whatever or get these group of people to like them or talk to lobbyists here or there. But just, and that's just a whole nother thing where it really is like psychology.
It is, you're right.
Marketing to a degree and a lot of different things that are
persuasion and rhetoric and things like that.
Manipulation of certain things, what words to use that appeal to certain people here and there.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a lot of complicated study group type things.
You are interested more in how policy affects the economy. Yeah. And how maybe the economy drives policy maybe too.
Exactly. So, what makes sense, how it affects the world, why I shouldn't freak out over this even though everybody else is because it really is insignificant. Yeah. That really, and like when people learn about things like that, and there's a ton that I have to learn about it, and that really the majority of people you can always learn more. Yeah. So there's it kind of just, when you're more educated on the subject itself, you worry about less, you understand more. It's less of an emotional environment than a empirical and quantitative environment. That's logical, easier to understand and uses logic.
You are so right about that. Too many people get caught up in the emotional parts.
It's not that big of a deal, really. Yeah. I mean, you like somebody, you don't like somebody.
You have to figure out what, logistically works and then vote that way. So what do you do? Obviously you're a busy person. And I would say you're maybe driven too, because you're motivated. What do you do in your off time? What's your fun just that you do when you have nothing to do?
Yeah. I like to eat anything with sugar in it. And I mean, I like to do stuff when I do that, I like to sit inside and watch Hulu or watch some movies, watch TV, like act like I don't exist for an hour.
Shut the windows and doors and just chill out into binge watching.
But I like to go out with my friends and do stuff. Most of the time it's in the evening, so I like go see a movie or bowl or just hang out and anything like that. I like being around people a lot. So
you crave that.
I'll go to Athens. Yeah, I'll go to Athens, see my friends there, do some different things.
But are you more extroverted, you think?
I am. A lot of people don't think I am because my resting expression is one of like not much emotion. Like, when I see people I know, I like smile and say, hey, or I feel like I'm smiling most of the time.
I know exactly what you mean by that.
I'm not really smiling. I feel like I'm smiling, but I'm not. I can't tell because I can't see my own face. But
that's so funny.
Yeah, I like.
But you're much more extroverted than people would probably think.
Probably,
because you're fairly low key too. So.
Yeah, if people know me, they know I am. Yeah. But I'm also.
Were you always like that as a little kid? Were you always walking around talking to the neighbors and?
I think so. For as long as I can remember, I liked talking to people, and I was high energy. I'm a lot lower energy than I was.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I'd just like run all over the place and like sprint and do weird things. But everybody like looks back at their child self and like, man, you're a weirdo. What's wrong with you? Why did you do that?
Yep.
But I have less energy. I think it's just getting older. But I mean, I have less energy now, so I'm a little more relaxed.
You're probably in the normal range now, as opposed to being, hyper moving around and everything. So that's cool. What else can we talk about? You're eating with the sugar thing. Like, what are we talking about? Your ice cream or cookies or?
I'm not a healthy person, and it didn't help. I just had a doctor's appointment about some stuff, and the doctor told in front of me and my parents, both said, they asked, should he eat a certain way, eat less sugar, or drink more water today? And he said word to word to me, he can do whatever he wants. He's 19 years old. And that's exactly what I needed to hear. So
that is horrible.
Which is really,
as a mom, but for you, that's awesome.
To a degree, it's true. You start, if you don't have any self-discipline whatsoever, you obviously need to change behavior early so it doesn't carry on and you're catching up to something.
You're right.
But if you can easily, if you have discipline,
diabetic or anything,
But as long as you are like paying attention to your body and go and do your checkups to the doctor, and I get a full screen of my blood work done every maybe 2 years. So
you're good.
You just look at your numbers and listen to yourself, and if you like, just as long as you're paying attention.
Being in weightlifting, you probably are pretty cued into your body.
Most of the time. Yeah. At one point I was going through. I was wrestling with the school, and I was also weightlifting in school, weightlifting outside of school, and kind of doing any other outdoor activities. So I was working out 14 times a week at least.
That's a lot, yeah.
And my body could not, I'm a small person. I put out a bunch of energy and I have a very fast metabolism. I can only metabolize a certain amount of protein when I eat. Yeah. Like I can only put so much in my stomach, and I can only get so much out of what I put in my stomach.
That's true.
So I was going through, it's rhabdomyolysis, and it is a point to where your body, because it is not getting enough protein from your diet, starts pulling muscle tissue from areas on your body that really are built up in it, and trying to move and repair damage to other areas of your muscles through your bloodstream. And what filters that out are your kidneys.
Yeah,
so if there's a lot of that starts sloughing off into your kidneys, and you start peeing out dead muscle tissue, which damages your kidneys and all, and really just your kidneys. And
that's tough. So what was the advice there? Slow down, don't work out as much?
Yeah, stop. You're supposed to, after 5 days of that, go to the emergency room and get fluids put into you and stop what you're doing. And it went on for like 3 weeks. Oh, no. And I was like, I should probably go to the doctor. And I was dove hunting in a field with my friend. It was like 90 degrees one day, and I was like, man, I feel horrible. I need to go to the doctor. And they're like, you should have came to us way earlier.
Yeah.
Because you can like really damage your kidneys.
Can.
If you do it for too long of a period, you can actually have kidney failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that didn't happen to me, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any real kidney damage. That I got everything tested and all that stuff.
Good.
And they're like, there's nothing wrong with you.
See, the funny thing is 99.9% of the population is on the other end of that spectrum where they're eating more than they can possibly use because they're just fluffing around on the sofa.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. Your body only can absorb a certain amount of nutrients at a certain rate, and sometimes it can't get enough. So on the sugar scale, do you cook anything? Are you a culinary person?
To bake.
You do?
Yeah. So I got that from my grandmother.
Which one, Nancy or Janet?
Janet.
Janet is, I'll say it right here on the air, Janet Shell is the best cook, baker. Yeah. Everything she makes is absolutely great.
Well, when we were kids, we always had the memory of like it's her birthday today, actually.
It is. Happy
birthday, Grandmama.
To Janet.
But she would always, like, if it was our birthday, she'd be like, we get to come and help her bake our birthday cake, and we get to do whatever we want with it and all that, which was always great. And but she would always also try to take us through how to do it instead of just saying do this, do that, and do this. And from that, that's why I like to bake, is because of that, really. So I like to make stuff and be like, so my God, I think I remember Grandmama saying do it this way.
Yeah.
So I would do that, but...
Is there anything you're really good at baking? It's your kind of standby?
I mean, it's good for me. I don't know if it's good for other people. I mean, I've made a couple pies that I thought were pretty good.
Oh, wow.
But I like a lot of sugar and a lot of cinnamon on them. Most people are like, I want to taste the apple. I mean, you can taste a little bit of the apple. It's mostly sugar. The crust is like half sugar.
That's good. Anything with butter and sugar, I'm in. I love butter and cream too. We throw that in. Yeah. So if you made pies, were apple pies that you made that you thought were pretty good?
It's the best pie ever. Apple pie.
Sounds good.
I'm a strong proponent of that.
That sounds
apple pie
good.
Is the best.
The baking thing surprises me, but I don't know why. I guess I figured you were a grill man or something.
I don't like grilling stuff that much. I'd rather somebody else make it for me, and I'd be like, I'll make cheeseburgers and stuff like that. Yeah. But for a steak, we have a sous vide cooker, which is that water immersion cooker that you can overcook it, you can undercook it. You just set it to a temperature, and because all the water surrounding it becomes that temperature, it can't overcook because it's not going to exceed that threshold.
That's interesting.
So you set it to whatever degree of cooking you want.
Yeah. And just let it happen.
The only way to eat steak is medium rare. If you eat it any other way, then you might as well get a hamburger. But you cook it to that, then you take a really, really hot cast iron skillet or something like that, and you have an oven ready that's on really hot, and you put some butter in that skillet, you get a little bit on it, and then you sear it for
the outside.
a minute and a half on each side. You don't want to cook it the inside anymore. But that steak will be extremely...
Yeah, that sounds like that would be a good way to...
It's just like you can cut it with a spoon.
That's great.
It's amazing.
Great. You know a lot about food, but you know a lot about a lot of things.
I don't know a lot about food, I wouldn't say.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to learn a lot.
You're an observer. You pick things up by watching people and learning things that way.
Yeah,
so
I like to...
quite a lot.
That's the one thing I can remember. If you ask me, like, menial things, I cannot remember. I'm like, I don't know what day. I normally don't know what day it is. I can't keep track of that. If you ask me what I ate for dinner 2 nights ago, I could not find it in my brain to tell you. But I could tell you, like, what I read in a book 8 years ago about something that people bring up once every 5 years.
Isn't that funny?
It works weird.
And you remember how to make a pie because you made it with your grandmother.
Yeah, which I have to ask her how to do some stuff sometimes. But
that's okay. That's good.
It's
She probably likes being asked.
Oh yeah, totally. She's really good at it, so she can always come up with something extra, even when she can change things in her head.
Yep.
And just be like, I'd do this time, and it's amazing always.
And it's always good. Everything that comes out of her kitchen. Well, this has been fun. I cannot believe an hour has gone by already.
It's fast.
Unbelievable. It's very fast. But there's a lot to Carter Shell. We had to, and I bet we didn't even scratch the surface.
Pretty simple, I mean.
No, I think you're quite complex. So, and I know that I'm very proud to know you, and I look forward to seeing where you go in life, because you're already on such a track. It's unbelievable.
Hope I can do some stuff.
You are already doing things.
Yeah.
So good. Well, thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And
appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week on Community Conversations.
Appreciate it.